morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Smiling faces. I hope I'll keep those smiles on your faces. I had an early morning this morning because I got the red-eye flight down from Abuja. So it's always great to be down in Lagos. And it's even better to be greeted by a big sign outside the hotel which says, Niger in spirit, Irish by birth. Do you see that sign? The brand shall remain nameless, but I like the sentiment. Maybe we should get T-shirts for the next conference for everybody saying that. So I had a few comments that I jotted down because you'll be relieved to know that I'm not an economist. I'm not a central banker. I'm not a technology guy. But I work in that diplomatic space and particularly exposed to the intersection between business, policy, and of course, most importantly, our citizens and the people who we're here to serve and who I'm here to serve. And the reason that I left my house at 4:30 this morning with a spring in my step. And I left my house with a spring in my step because every time I come back to Lagos, I get a bit of the Lagos buzz. I think we all get it a little bit. There's a bit of a vibe going on here. And I should also say that for next year, Ireland will mark 65 years of diplomatic relations with Nigeria. And I'll let you in on a little secret. That I'm sure you won't tell anybody, is that Ireland actually sent a diplomat here before Nigeria declared its independence. Such was the closeness of the relationship between Ireland and Nigeria. So you won't be surprised to know that our Prime Minister himself came down for the event here in Lagos, the independence celebrations. And you won't be surprised to know that we had a garden party for him, to welcome him to Lagos. And 1,500 people turned up in the garden of St. Gregory's School to welcome the Irish Prime Minister. And he looked at all these people and he said, who on earth are all these people? What are they doing here? And a very famous gentleman was there to greet him called Father Dennis Slattery, who some of you might have heard of. And Father Dennis Slattery said to him, this is half of the people who are here to meet you tonight. And he said, where are the other half? And he said, they're across in St. Finbarr's and they're going to come later. So our history here is a long history. So for me to come here is always special. And I think there's a little bit of Lagos that'll always be connected with Ireland. And we don't have to go very far in Ireland to have that very special connection with Nigeria. Because one of the differences 64 years ago was that we didn't have a Nigerian community in Ireland. But today we have a Nigerian community north, south, east, and west in Ireland. And probably many of you in this room have classmates, family members, or neighbours who are living in Ireland, who are indeed working in the very technology sector, which is so important to both of our economies. So you won't be surprised to know that education is at the heart of Ireland's development. And if you think that we got our independence just 40 years before you did, so 40 years later, Nigeria gets its independence, and we are in a position now where we're 105 years independent, where we think we're beginning to realize the fruits of that independence, and we're beginning to try to achieve our potential, probably for the first time, almost in 1,000 years, to fully achieve our potential. And a very important element of that independence struggle for us was to be treated equally and to recognize the equality of our partners around the world. So the way in which we operate, you will see consistently, is that we look for partnerships in Ireland. Because we're a tiny little place. You know, you can fit 14 islands of Ireland into Nigeria. Richie, 14 times you can fit Ireland into Nigeria. So therefore, our approach has always been one of partnership. Our approach has always been, let's get our heads up, look around and see where we can find common ground with other people. We've always tried to do that, and I think it's particularly places us very well in the technology age. And I'll just say to you one or two little things about that. One is, of course, that, like in Nigeria, our technology space and our technology sector is underpinned by a commitment to education. We have the highest number per capita of any country in all of Europe of young people who are studying STEM at third level, number one. Number two, we have the highest proportion of third level students per capita of any country in Europe, full stop, who are attending university. Now, you won't be surprised, because when you look at the Irish influence in this country, it's all schools, isn't it? It's education. So not surprisingly, this is the one little advantage that we have when we didn't have all the other advantages maybe that other countries had. One of the obsessions we had, and we share with Nigeria, if you like, is about our education. So this has really spilled over very well in the post-industrial revolution world to the technology age, because technology is all about your openness and your willingness to work with partners, the education and the readiness of your society to adopt new technologies and to really build world-class collaboration. And Ireland is only a small little place. I'll just keep repeating that to you. So we don't claim to be the best at anything, really, but there's one or two things where we're really, really in an interesting position. And one of them, many of them will surprise you. They surprise me every day. So I'll just give you a couple of them, if I may. One is that we're the 6th largest exporter on the planet of financial services. We only have 1% of the population of the European Union. There's 193 countries in the United Nations, and Ireland is number 6 on the planet in exporting financial services, which is really kind of interesting, isn't it? Isn't it very interesting that 17 of the world's largest banks have their European headquarters in Dublin? Not just in Ireland, but specifically in Dublin in one particular location. So it means that our central bank equivalents and our banking equivalents have had to be at the forefront of all the innovations that Richie and other people have been talking about and you'll be learning more about today. So it means that we are a magnet for foreign direct investment. We get far more foreign direct investment than our geography, than our size, or than our history would suggest that we should get. We get perhaps 10 to 12 times more direct investment than we should get on paper. But because of our collaborative approach, because of our openness, because of the talented young people that we have, and because of this educational levels of achievement that we have a very, very successful global financial sector. And what we've built on the back of the global financial sector is, of course, an indigenous sector. So if we just click, actually, I'm telling myself to click here. If it's up, it's gone, is it? It's the clicker. You can tell me if it looks like it's working. You're going to knock it up there for me. They used to tell me when I started out in this job, they said to me, never work with children, animals, or technology. So I failed miserably on all counts, but we'll do our best today. So if you take the point about the innovative and the innovation hub in Ireland, you can read those things yourself, but I'll just shoot through them a little bit if I can and just show you. I'll come back to a couple of them, but I'll just show you that point about where we said about on the technology side, on the fintech side. So we're the 4th largest exporter of financial services in the EU. So that's not including life insurance and pensions. And Ireland is the location for one of the largest pension funds on the planet. It's not some of the largest cities in the world that you'd know very well. It's actually Dublin in Ireland. And one of the reasons, of course, is the colonial legacy that you have and that we have, that we're speaking English to each other. The second one is that we have a common law. We have a common law legal system, and we share that with each other. And the third one, I suppose, from our perspective, and it's very important for us around where we are, is also the stability that we have. So Ireland's been a democracy since the day we received our independence. Our economic policies haven't dramatically changed, I would say, in almost 50 years. We're a small, open economy. We had a trade war. Can you imagine, with our big neighbor in the 1930s. It didn't really end well for us, I would have to say. So we realized and we learned then that rather than closing our doors, in fact, we had to do the opposite. We had to try to build trading partnerships. And it's really interesting at the moment. If you look at everything that's going on in the world, and we're hearing about instability, and we're hearing about changing investment climates, changing tariff rules, and everything else, Ireland is firmly committed to an open market, open trading, and that's why the membership of the European Union, for example, is so important to us. And that's something we are very deeply committed to. So we work with a whole range of companies. You'll see there some of the Regtech companies that we have, but you'll see also right across other sectors. Many of those companies are already working in Africa. Many of them are running on the various platforms that people are working on here in this room. And I think one of the features of their work here is around their collaborative approach. And because of our European Union membership, and because of our central bank innovative approach, I suppose, we've had a sandbox for many years in the fintech space. We've had partnerships with fintech and payments associations around the world, and it was nice to say hello to Martin there from Ghana a few minutes ago. We've had a connection here with the guys in Nigeria. We have it in Hong Kong and Singapore, where Ira's based. We have it literally all over the world, and what we're trying to do all of the time is to build those kind of partnerships. So I would say that one of the most interesting things for me as a diplomat, and one of the things that I hope I've reflected, or hopefully I'll continue to reflect during my time in Nigeria, is that one of the things that I really love about Nigeria, and I suppose we like to see some of that reflected in ourselves in Ireland, that we really don't get knocked off course very easily. You know, the tech doesn't work. The whole world doesn't come to a halt. We have a power cut. The world doesn't come to a halt. We get on with things. We're used to barriers coming in our way. If you had a starting point in Ireland to say that 102 years ago you were going to try and build your own state, that you were going to try and leave what was a big, very successful empire, you probably wouldn't have started if you saw all the roadblocks were ahead of you. Maybe in Nigeria you mightn't have started if you saw all the roadblocks were ahead of you. But guess what? We've both kind of found our way along the road. I would say that the road is not a straight road. It's not a direct road. It's a winding road on the way. And one of the phrases that we have in the Irish language, I know you've so many beautiful idioms in all of the many languages in Nigeria, but when we're looking for inspiration in Ireland, we'll often look to a word in our native language or a phrase in our native language. And we have a lovely phrase in the Irish language. We have a phrase in the Irish language for everything, right? And in my job, it's great to have them, but we have one that really, really, really is popular with people. And I'll just share it with you if I may, and it's Gurrin Bert on Boher. You have the same phrase up in the Highlands of Scotland, Gurrin Bert on Boher. So it means two people shorten the road. In other words, if you go on your own, good luck with that journey, it'll be difficult. But if you've got somebody with you, it's a little bit easier. And I think that's our approach into how we do things. And if you think that in the World Competitiveness Yearbook in 2024, there was one country in the world who led the way in the openness of their cultural approach in a business context. There was one country in the world that led the way for the openness of its culture in terms of business partnerships and business knowledge and doing business with them. And it was the little place that I'm from. Now, I also see the place where I live and where my family are here, I see similar openness here. And I see a readiness to partner, a readiness to adapt. I see fantastic flexibility, and I see a kind of innate resilience and innate toughness that you mightn't see so much because you live here and you're used to it. I can tell you, coming in from outside, that this is really a refreshing thing. This will really stand to Nigeria. And from our perspective, and I speak also, with my friends in the European Union. There's 19 European Union missions here, and then we've got all our like-minded colleagues as well who are here. And all of them share the enthusiasm for this, for the potential partnerships with Nigeria. And it's to everybody's benefit, because guess what? We're not competing with Nigeria on anything. So there is no policy experience that has taken place in Ireland or in the European Union or in our like-minded countries that we're not ready to share. And guess what I would do if I was trying to forward Regtech policy, if I was trying to navigate my way around the system? I'd find people who've done it before. That would be my starting point. I'd say, I wonder who's done that before. Let me go and find them. And I can tell you the doors of the diplomats in Nigeria are open, because this is a win for them to be able to connect with the private and public sector in Nigeria, and it's a win for you also. This is a non-competitive space. You're big boys and girls, you can compete with the private sector, but the diplomatic service, I should say, is at your disposal. But sometimes you need to take that step to do that. I want to thank you so much for the warm welcome here today. You know, before the very snappily, it's hard, MC comes up and throws me off the stage. When I was coming down here this morning, you know, I was, my youngest daughter is doing her school exams this year, this week. So I was kind of wondering what she was doing today, and I was asking her last night, you know, what have you got on today? What will you be doing while I'm in Lagos? And she said, oh, I have to go in to defend one of my essays to the teacher. And she said, I don't understand why I have to defend it. I've written it already. Does that sound familiar to you? People just, they don't want the contact, just want to click things in. I said to her, don't worry, you'll be great. And I told her a true story. And in the 1980s, a man called Andy Lopata, remember the name, Andy Lopata, he wrote a book about the things that people were most frightened of in their lives. He asked them, they did a big survey in America, and they asked people, what are the things you're most frightened of in your whole life? What was the first one? Walking into a room full of strangers. Sound familiar? Second one? Public speaking. Guess what the third one was? Dying. And what did he call his book? And Death Came Third. So I said to my daughter, you have nothing to be worried about. You're going in and seeing a few teachers who you see every day. It'll be fine. I said, you have some sympathy for your father, who's going into a room full of strangers. He has to stand up and speak at a very technical conference, but hopefully he'll come out alive on the other side. And so far, it looks like I don't want to tempt fate, but if I make it off the stage safely, and we will remember the day we met, I want you to come and say hello to him. I'm going to be around here for a few hours. Please make an effort to come up and say hello. And if there's anything that we can help with, or indeed any of my like-minded diplomatic colleagues, we're here. We look good if you guys are building businesses with our countries. And we're as invested in the future of Nigeria as the Irish people who came here more than 100 years ago were. Thank you for your time this morning. It's great to see you all.
Thank you.